Alrighty, hi everyone, or well, all the guys on this server. I just wanted to update you guys on exactly what's going on because obviously not very many people play except for myself and everyone plays. It's just not very many people play at the same time, and as well, I just want to have like a general journal of what I'm doing in order so everyone can kind of be on the same page in terms of what's happened, how things work. You maybe can learn a couple things about how to build farms in Minecraft, because obviously this is what I have the most fun with, and I hope other people could have fun too, so more people play. But yeah, so I'm working on a slime farm right now. First things you might notice is some weird lines, some X's, and that is bright even though there's no torches. So first thing I want to say is when making a lot of farms, one thing that's really handy is to crank your brightness, especially when working underwater. It's a little bit cheaty in that it allows you to see in the dark, but for my own experience sake, I do turn it off whenever whenever I'm not working on a farm, just because obviously, yeah, it's a bit cheaty, you can see things in the dark, but I really don't want things to go wrong, because I think there's a bug with the deathbed thing, whatever. And I'm not the op, so I can't turn off data packs. But yep, so I have it set. So if you go into your Minecraft folder, there's a I believe it's a text file called settings.txt. You can open that up and you'll see gamma. There's a gamma colon, and then you can set that to whatever you want. The highest brightness that you can set in game default, like by default, is 16. But I have it all the way set up to 100, which allows me to see pretty good. Which, I mean, yeah, you can see that diamond there and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm going to be mining it out anyway, because if you know anything about slime farms, these two are slime chunks. This chunk and this chunk. They're side by side, a dual spawn chunk, slime chunk. So what I'm doing is I'm digging it out. So slimes, so a little bit of information on slimes is, in order to make a slime farm, slime spawn in the overworld, either in a swamp. Oh no. So obviously that shouldn't have happened. So I'll explain how slime farm works while I go check on that. I know. But basically how slime farm works is slime spawn in the overworld, either in in swamps. They spawn naturally in light level below 7, anywhere from levels 50 through 70. So that's in the sky. You'll also see there's a blue shape. I'll explain that in a little bit. What the heck happened? Oh my god, what is happening? So that's a skeleton horse. Those only form when a horse gets struck by lightning. But also this one's under the ocean for some reason. Okay, but yeah, so they spawn in the overworld in swamp biomes and light level lower than 7, anywhere between Y values 50 through 70. Now that's one way of doing them. Obviously, it's hard to filter out the slimes from the other mobs when you're doing that, and so that's why there's a second way, where randomly generated throughout the world, about a 1 in 10 chance of a chunk, will spawn as a slime chunk. And slime chunks allow slimes to spawn at Y equals anything below Y40. And what the hell is happening? Okay, well, we're gonna watch this while I explain it. But anything under Y equals 40, that allows that's weird. It allows slimes to spawn at any light level. So that means that if you just light it up, no other mobs can spawn, and that allows you to filter out the slimes really, really easily to make a very efficient farm. And so that's what I'm doing. So those two slimes are side-by-side slime chunks. That allows me to get the most amount of spawning area possible early game, obviously. I have another slime farm slated with a big perimeter, hopefully, to be set up. It's a quad slime chunk, and it's very close to a witch hut, so that means you can run them both at the same time. I don't really mind running a single witch farm at lower efficiencies. Obviously, I also, on this seed, there is a triple and a double slime, double witch hut There's a double witch hut within 10,000 blocks, and then there's a double. I believe the reason that they're dying. So if you want to know something, I believe it's entity cramming. So if you have more than 24 mobs in one block, they'll start to take damage. It's known as entity cramming, and I believe these guys are dying and also being ejected with max velocity because of entity cramming, because there's so many villagers in a single slot. Yeah. So how it works is, in our farm, is basically we exploit the fact that they spawn at less than -40. So from bedrock 2, which is like y = 4, to 40, or in our case it's going to be a little bit lower just because we're under an ocean and I don't want to clear out that much water. Here we start heading back. Now that I know why that they're dying, I thought the zombie got in, because obviously we have a... This is another project. That's the next project, is this curing station. Yeah, that's the spawn sphere. I will explain that in a little bit. So yeah, in order to exploit that, we're just going to make levels that they can spawn in from y = 40 all the way down to bedrock. That's the most efficient, obviously, for the big one, that is. But as you can probably see, we're at y = 64. But as we head back to the farm, y = 40 is... Well, this is 47, a little bit lower than this level. But that's a spawning platform, so obviously you can build it 4 blocks higher and they'll spawn just fine. Excuse me. But yeah, so how I started is I marked out the chunks in the overworld just like this, just so I knew where they were, and then I started mining out a little area. So obviously, this was my original plan for the roof, was y = 44, which means 4 blocks above the spawning platform there would be a roof, which means, yeah, you could run a 3 block high thing just fine. But I moved it down to 22. That means that there's only about, 18 blocks between the roof of this and the ground. That's because this is only a double chunk and it's underwater, so it's a pain, and this is the beginning of the game. We don't have Instamine with our haste efficiency 5 haste 2, because I only have efficiency 5. Yeah, so because of that, we can't Instamine. It's pretty slow. Don't have TNT duping because we don't even have slime. So we're just mining this by hand, and it takes forever. So that's why we're only going to 22. That allows for, as you can see, this bottom is 4, so that means that there's 18 blocks. So 18 divides evenly into 3. So that means that we can do something like this. So that block on top is a half slab, but it's a top half slab, which means the top is spawnable. And the bottom is 2.5 blocks tall, which the bigger slimes are about 2.5 blocks tall. So that means it allows them to, okay, I gotta ignore that, but it allows them to spawn on this platform, as well as if we run to 1, 2.5, it allows them to spawn. So that's 2 platforms right there in a 6 block high radius, which is it's going to be pretty quick. I'm assuming that this is going to give us maybe 100 or 200 slime per hour. I hope. That's just off the top of my head, just looking at the last farm that we made, which was a triple spawn chunk, and it just kept filling up double chests like there's no tomorrow. So yeah, that's the plan. Is for just a starter one, just so we can get some slime blocks going. Obviously, another thing that we need to work on is we need bees, but I'll be brutally honest, I don't know where the nearest plains biome is, and I haven't gone and checked. I might ask Adrian. Well, obviously, because if you look at trigger gal, I have a good lump sum of money. I have 20 diamonds worth, or 2,000 bucks, and I've already said that for bamboo I will spend $1,000 on the first person that finds bamboo, and I'm thinking for a hive with 3 bees, I'll give $2,000 again. So 20 diamonds for that bee, because I don't want to. I love my mushroom biome. I just got iron armor. Soon with villager training, it will be diamond, but still, I'm lazy. Okay, I'll just pay it. But yeah, so that's the next step for honey blocks. Honey blocks, obviously. So if we want to go back, slime blocks and honey blocks allow you to move blocks on a single piston, which is super good for flying machines and just other stuff like that. And so I gotta keep ignoring that. So because of that, it's good. It's good. It's very good. It's very good. So actually, I can start mining. Well, I'm just talking. Obviously, I'm not super great at this, but so because of that, it allows you to make pretty complex machines and stuff, and just make sticky pistons, because obviously you need a single slime block per sticky piston, and a lot of our machines are going to start needing them pretty soon. So the plan is to get this farm fully operational by the end of the day. Obviously, my previous goal was to get the iron farm ready by the end of the day, which has already come true. It's the start of the day, actually, and it is fully operational. It works great. It's like 450 iron per hour. Great farm. Works well. Now, I don't actually need to light this up. Here's another thing. As long as I'm here, I don't need to light this up, because mobs can't spawn within 24 block radius. Speaking of radius, let's explain how spawning works. And so, how hostile mob spawning works in general is this, basically. Mobs can't spawn within 24 block radius. They will start to despawn in a 32 block radius of the player. So if you're 32 blocks away from a mob, I don't know if a timer starts, but it basically randomly could despawn. And so obviously you would want to be within those two things for optimal spawning conditions. However, obviously that makes it hard for farms like this that have lots of caves underneath, because that means that other mobs could spawn, taking up a mob cap. So how does a mob cap work? A mob cap is basically, in the overworld, in every dimension actually, there is a limit to how many mobs can spawn. Hostile, passive, and there's some other weird specific ones. But in particular, the hostile one is the one that we're looking for, because we're looking for hostile mob drops. So because of that, there's a maximum amount of mobs, which I believe it is dependent on how many people are actually online, and I believe it for one person is 140. I think I'm just guessing. But obviously, if more mobs are spawning, that means that mob cap is higher, and the higher the mob cap, the lower chance of spawning you'll get. So that means you want to keep it as low as possible, which is why you might want to move a little bit farther away from that 32 block radius, which that big blue circle out there that I was explaining, that is a 128 by 128 sphere. Now, why that's important is because after 128 blocks, mobs despawn instantly. So, yeah, and obviously the farther the player is away, the faster they despawn, but at 128, it's instant. So that means that anything if you stand 128 blocks away, you effectively get no spawns or no mob drops. So to prevent that, we have that sphere, which just lets me know it's a mod. It's called Mini HUD, I believe. If anyone's interested, just message me. Yeah, so it allows me to determine that spawn sphere and like find a location, because just you probably saw up there is another contraption, which is Owen's hostile mob farm, general hostile mob farm. So it's for all mobs, all mobs that will spawn over there. So everything pretty much. And in order to because we don't need these to be 100% efficient, and we just kind of need drops, where I was looking for an AFK point between the two that would be most efficient for both of the farms to drop items, or to spawn mobs to be killed to drop items, and that looks like it's the best spot, because again, obviously, you just want to. I'm just guessing, obviously, because I'm not a science man, but Yeah, so that's the spot I've picked. Let's go with that. I've picked right now. Obviously, I will negotiate with Owen to see what he wants. If he wants his farm to be priority, then obviously he can make his own spawn point, and I'll make a different spawn point somewhere else. But I think I want to run his farm at the same time, because having gunpowder just ready when we get elytras is always good, because gunpowder allows you to build rockets. Rockets allow you to fly your elytra. Obviously, the second component is sugarcane, which I need pistons for, which is, or well, sticky pistons for, to make a zero-tick mob farm, or excuse me, sugarcane farm. And so that's why this is important to make. Yeah. So I will be back when this is drained, and I'll explain the design, because I think it's probably like some other person has probably found out about it before me, but it works, and I found it by myself because it's a pretty just practical, obvious farm. It uses iron golems. So yeah, I'll be back then. Oh my god, I've been recording for 15 minutes. I suck at this. Alright, so back working on the slime farm. Quick update after I've cleared everything out and started to put all the casing around it and starting to build the layers of the farm. Just saw one spawn there. It works. So if I ever hit tab during it, you might be able to tell, but it's like 4 hours in game, 7.5 hours in real life after the last recording. It's a bit of a bitch. I made some changes, so I have chunk borders on again, as you can probably tell from the last one. I had it one block outside the slime chunk, just for walls, but well, just like this wall, but I decided to go with a more efficient design, and so I went 3 blocks, or 4 blocks with the wall, but 3 blocks over, in order to allow for the collection of slimes to be outside the slime chunk, giving, you know, a couple more blocks of spawnable blocks, because usually most designs are not as efficient, because I just cut a hole and have them drop through and onto campfires or whatever. And as you can probably tell, I'm not using campfires, I'm using magma blocks. The reason for that is it saves on hopper use case, as well as it allows for better pathfinding to the golems that will be in this spire here. I kind of screwed up the order because obviously it's going to be pretty difficult to get them in there, but I'll figure it out. But yeah, so one of the reasons why I started here I started this point, because I just finished these 2 circuits. As you can see, I covered it up, so like it's covered. But I uncovered this one right after, because I realized, hey, this is an interesting like thought process, rationale. So as you can see, the hopper minecart heads up here. Those slime balls are probably just from something I killed. Let's just kill this guy. Little slime balls. So you see they're still spawning. I need to get those golems so they stop aggroing on me. So this circuit, so I like to, when I design redstone, I like to think, well, what's my end goal? My end goal is to get all the items to be ejected to this soul sand to be sent into a storage system, which for now will be here because we don't have ice, and also I want to make a centralized storage system. So I'm gonna need to build a entity processing chunk loading grid for items to travel through. It helps because Owen's mob farm's up there, so we can just have them both run into the same item stream and head back to the base. And so we just need to load like a couple 3x3 entity processing chunk loading grids all the way back to the base, which would be good. But that's later goals, later times, because preferably you'd like to have an obsidian generator at that point, or obsidian farm, I guess you could say. So I can explain that. I'll explain all that in a minute. But yeah, just that stuff. That stuff's pretty cool. It's fun. Yes. But so for now, I'm just gonna explain the circuit real quick. So that's the goal. The goal is to get the items here. So obviously you could have hoppers under the whole track and bring it over here, which would be like, it would allow the hopper minecart to be empty at all points in time, so it can always collect items. However, it can hold what, 600 and something items, 600 or so items. So that's a lot of items. Or can I? I think it's 5 stacks. Whatever. But it holds a lot of items. So, yeah. Well, how do you want to transport all those items? And why don't? Because then you have to figure out how to fit the hoppers under the bedrock and all that, yada yada yada. But this system is a lot more simple. So what it does is this is like a docking station where it can empty. So basically, this rail is only powered by this repeater and this repeater, which takes an output from this block, which is being powered by this torch. And so what happens is if there are any items in the hopper, so simulating that, I'll just put some items on this hopper. It will cause this comparator to take an output and put it into this block, disabling this torch, which disables this repeater, which turns off this rail. Pretty simple right there. I guess it would be slightly more complicated part would be how do you get the items that are in this hopper that are moved into this dropper to go over to the soul sand or outputted from this dropper. Now you might be thinking, or you might want to, make it more compact by moving it over one, which is what I tried to do initially, is to move it over one to try to get, because obviously you could put the soul sand here and have it come out from here, but I had a lot of problems with, bud powering and block powering, powering this rail, or powering this block under here, which causes this torch to permanently stay off, which means that this rail will never be powered. So I just moved it over one. Obviously, you could probably compact it if you wanted to build up just a little bit. But I did it this way. I decided to do it this way. And that just means that I powered this dropper here, which powers this block because this block is strongly powered. So this block takes an output from this block, which makes it not powered. And because it's soft powered, it will not lock the hopper and it will not power the rail. If you moved it over one, you might have some bud powering issues with powering the rail, and you would lock the hopper. Locking the hopper would seize the whole system up, and it would not be able to transfer items. So as you can see, some stuff is dying. I hope I can let's see where the rail is. But basically, when the items go into here, it takes an output, turns off this, which so for one circuit, obviously you could try to get a comparator output from this dropper to figure out when to turn on the clock, or you can simply just take the whole output from here. So when this dropper, you can see right there, it's dropping out its load from the slime balls. But yeah, so whenever the items are in this hopper, it takes an output and it powers this super fast clock, comparator clock, I guess you could say. But it needs to be inverted, so obviously you could, if you didn't need it inverted, you could take it directly out of this block and it would take a comparator output, because obviously this is powered by this, just like a repeater, it would take it out. But I needed to invert it, so I used a torch to invert the signal, because obviously this torch, when this hopper is empty, this block is powered, so that means it unpowers this torch, which turns off the clock. And then when this is doing this stuff, the clock is on. Obviously, I just stopped it, but you go back now. But yeah, so when the hopper clock is powered, it triggers this observer to send symbol into this observer, which sends it into this dispenser, which soft powers this and powers this. Works well. I had some reliability concerns, I guess, because obviously these two droppers are being powered in the same tick, so that could be an issue in that, like if there's only one item and it only sends one pulse, then it would not push the items through, or not necessarily push the items through all the hoppers. There are some ways around that, but yeah, so as you can see, it does pulse twice, or usually pulses twice. If a server lags, it does not pulse twice, because this observer is unable to detect the change in state of that block. So that leaves like one item in this dropper occasionally after the circuit is over. However, because if it's like a hopper transfers one item every 4 ticks, and this triggers every other tick, so every other tick it goes off, yeah, it's not that big of a concern. For the system overall. Yeah. Obviously, if these droppers get filled by any other sources, it could lead to a jam, potentially, because obviously one item could jam it, yada yada yada, because then that would cause the hopper to stop. So there you can see it in action right there, dropping off its slime balls, filling up, sending it back out. Pretty simple, like it's a simple circuit. I'm kind of proud of it because it didn't take as long as some of this other stuff, because I'm tired, it's been 6 hours, 7 hours, but it was a really quick circuit to design, nice and simple. Yep. So I had it buried, so as you can see I have another one on this side. I have it buried underneath, just so that the mobs or anything can't interact with that hopper minecart, jamming it up. Also, it just looks slick. I'm probably going to use stained glass, colored stained glass, to move this into an item stream to go to storage. Again, like I said, central storage for localized storage here, and then centralized storage later as an end goal. Yeah, it's this project has been pretty fun, especially the whole consideration of swapping it over to Magma Design. I don't know how I feel about the granite and andesite combo. It looks pretty striking, I'll say that. And with the slimes, when you see the slimes around, it's kind of like super hard on the eyes. Like, it's like not hard on the eyes. It's like industrial on the eyes, if that makes sense. It looks pretty industrial. That's what I'm trying to go for here. This is like an industrial viewing area. Probably going to use white or black or gray stained glass just to like add a little bit of a, like, this is an industrial plant. It doesn't require special glass kind of deal. Obviously I need a lot more andesite. I have no more. It's kind of tough because it's not renewable like cobble and stuff. So that kind of sucks, but I mean, it's the first time I was using it. The main consider here, I can do a little bit of a why. So why I decided I picked andesite and granite is because Owen was using a lot of stone. So, and our cobble situation is pretty weak because our cobblestone generator is jank, super jank. So yeah, here I'll just repair this while I'm talking. But yeah, so I decided, maybe I shouldn't make, because I was making the iron farm at the time, I shouldn't make it out of these, which are smooth stone, because this is one of my favorite building blocks. So that was when I was building the iron farm. So I was like, okay, I'll just stop building the iron farm for now. And so that's when I swapped over to this project, because sticky pistons are awesome. Or well, not just sticky pistons, just slime blocks are slime blocks, sticky pistons, yada yada yada, all good. Magma creams, fire resistant, all good stuff. So obviously this is a farm that you absolutely need. It's a fun project. It's pretty efficient and good, like in general, like it's a fun farm. So I decided to build it, and then I was like, okay, so what building block? I can use cobble technically, because this is gonna create a lot of cobble when you mine it out, but I haven't really used these blocks, this block, but these two blocks, so might as well try. Gives it an interesting look. I think it would be better as like a factory, because it kind of looks like big bricks, like ceramic bricks, and so you could use it as a tile, and then maybe have like a chimney out of it with like lots of iron bars. I think that would look pretty sick. Maybe with wood. I don't know. But yeah, I think it could look pretty good in a different application. Obviously, this application has already been applied, so gotta live with it. But I think it looks okay. Yeah. Probably the next thing will be it all operational. So obviously these item conduit looking things will be done. This will be filled out. The golems will be in place. Maybe I'll explain how the golem eyesight works. I'm not exactly sure the command so you can see the hitboxes and see where their eyes are looking. Because I'm going to be using one golem per 2 layers. So as you can see, there's 4 layers here. So I'm only going to be using 2 golems per stack. That's because I can basically I'll put one every 6 blocks. And if you position them right, the slimes can look up and look down at the golem, even when they spawn in the middle. So it works. And obviously, there's also, like, if it was even a block off, it's not that bad, because as you can see, slimes, they're pathfinding, they always jump, they always move, they're never standing still. unless you physically force them or put them in a minecart. They will not stand still. Also, I'd like to make a quick, from my last clip 10 minutes ago, I learned something pretty interesting. Slimes are the only hostile mob, that spawn if you're 24 blocks away. Other mobs spawn if you're 14 blocks away. So why that's interesting is that means that, as you can probably hear around me, there are other mobs. So you really need to make sure that your mob cap is lowered from those mobs, as low as possible from those mobs, in order for the slime to spawn. Because obviously if you look at the spawning code, it looks for the mob cap and the distance, and so those mobs will spawn first. So that's why it's not recommended to build a swamp farm. You can build slime chunk farms are better because you can just light it up, so it'll prevent any other mobs from spawning. Yeah, I like this farm. It's an interesting farm concept. I'm gonna take a lot of considerations when I build my big one with the perimeter, because I watched an Ilmango video on slime spawning, and I learned a lot about how it depends a lot about your top opaque block, because that determines the sub chunk ordering. So that means that you can spawn more slimes in a smaller area. So yeah, his video basically explained how you can use instead of building a big farm, you can use some sort of bedrock breaker like Dragon Egg or Headless Pistons, and only use one sub chunk. So one sub chunk actually. So you can see the blue line there is every chunk is 16 by 16, but a sub chunk is 16 blocks high within the chunk. So the first sub chunk is from bedrock to there. And if you just use that space and have transparent blocks all the way to build limit, or just direct access to the sky, it means that all of your slimes will spawn with like a lot of your mob cap will completely be within the first sub chunk, and therefore will cause like massive spawning in this small area. He was getting like 18,000 slime blocks per hour. Yeah, so I'll probably be back when it's done and looks nice and pretty, and we'll go over some like how many drops per hour, AFK location, stuff like that, because I think that's the final thing. And then maybe probably a separate video, just like some sort of centralized storage video if I make that. We'll be going over how centralized storage will work, and how well, I'll probably show how those entity processing chunk loaders work if I build a bee farm, because there's some pretty cool stuff you can do with entity processing with bee farms. So yeah, and that chunk loader is a Membomb design shown off by Ilmango, so I'll make credit to that when that happens. Yeah, so it's good. See ya. All right. This is the final update for this slime farm here. It's finished. Or well, okay, that'll be storage system. Never mind. But yeah, this will be the last one because it's all finished for this basic. It's our first slime farm. So the first slime farm is done. So as you can see from the last video, I finished the cells, finished the platforms, covered it all up, and then I've added these conduits. I think it looks pretty cool. My standard design is I have borders of smooth stone, but yeah, all green, kind of looks like a slime cube, especially because the non-connected textures on the glass kind of make it seem pretty cool. Yeah, it's all done. Yes, all done. It's been actually more than a little while. It's been 48 hours ever since, because Owen came on shortly after that last video was posted, and so we worked on some group stuff, villager trading, lots of stuff actually. We worked on lots of stuff. And he finished his mob farm, and that actually kind of sparked me, or well, we did villager stuff, but then it sparked me into upgrading it, because it turns out he didn't anticipate for witch spawning, because witches obviously, they need to be killed by fall damage, or they will live, and then they'll heal themselves, and they'll fire resistance on the magma blocks, so there's no real efficient way to kill them. So I was like, hey, let's do that. And he was not too pleased with us having to move the killing chamber down, which is what we actually ended up having to do. Maybe I'll make a separate video on how I fixed it, but yeah, basically it's fixed now. I fixed it. But as you can probably see as we swam past, the slimes get moved up. Obviously, sea pickles are in order to make this nice and lit up. But we'll see better at the surface. But obviously, it is a item conduit. So this item conduit, right, you can hear the dispensers going. So it'll start taking. Is it something else? Oh, there they go. So here come the slime balls. They come up from after killing the slimes, and they send them down the item stream like so, into this T-junction, which is the T-junction with the mob farm. So the mob farm drops go up and up through here, and then they get moved over to this. This is a temporary, that's why it's made of slime blocks. Temporary storage system in AFK spot. So obviously the items will, after this, go down this way towards our base, which is over there. But for now, they get redirected up into here and into these chests. So as you can see at the top, it's just a splitter just so that we can get more chests. So it'll either go, I don't know if you can see, but it'll go. Priority will be to go down this one and into this chest, but it'll also go into this chest. That happens. Why does it split? It splits because if more than one item gets in this hopper, as you saw right there was two for a second. One will drop down, and then the next one will go over, because this hopper down there is going to suck one, and the other one's going to push one. So obviously the hopper can only suck so many items per tick, and so it'll have to stop and push one over. So that's how it works, because this hopper is feeding into the next one. It's handy with some things. It doesn't work with chests. Like if you put a chest underneath, it wouldn't work. But like, I'm pretty sure it works with dispensers and it works with furnaces, I think. So it's handy if you ever need to split items without using a double chest. Because that's what I used to do before I learned that fact. So I got all my stuff here that I've been working on this one actually more recently. But just since I just finished this, might as well show it off. Nice and good. So that's the slime farm. In terms of items, it's about 100, maybe 100 when running both farms. It's like 128 items per hour, like just around this area when I was working on it. In an ideal world, if I light up all the caves around, my math came out to a couple thousand per hour, which is obviously sounds like a lot. Like it's probably like 2,000 or 3,000, but that sounds like a lot. But that's if I completely removed all of the spawning from the rest of the map, which obviously won't be done here at least or maybe it will for a while, because obviously that will require this blue box is circled around this spot, so everything you see in the blue will need to be lit with sea pickles for the seafloor and torches for the caves, and yeah, that's what that would entail, which kind of sucks. I'd rather just build a world eater to just destroy the terrain and then build one, which obviously is later game, but this is probably all the slime boss will need for a while at least. So yep, that's it. Hope you guys learned something. It was a pretty fun project to build overall. It was, as you can see, it's been a few days, so now I have kick-ass armor and kick-ass everything, so it's been a progression over the last couple days, but it's about the right time to build a slime farm. Obviously, it's like right at the beginning. It was a little bit late because obviously I have awesome armor, but we did villager things, which is always overpowered. Yeah, so now we have all the tools we need. What this gives us is, now that we have an iron farm, which I did first because the iron farm I build doesn't require any redstone. Then we get some redstone, and we have villagers to trade for redstone because it'll slow down the process of us building the witch farm. And then now we have the slime farm. So now we have pistons that have sticky pistons, and we can do flying machines, and I can use it as a scaffolding block. Because the reason why, so here's the reason why I scaffold out of slime blocks, by the way. It's because you can insta-mine it with your fist. Even if you're swimming, you can insta-mine it. So no matter what situation, you can insta-mine it, which is very handy. So that's why it's a great scaffolding and temporary block. Maybe not the best temporary block, because if someone just came and accidentally left-clicked here, they would break this whole thing, but people will be careful. But for scaffolding and counting, it's great. Yeah, So that's it. Next project, don't know. So see you in the next project that I don't know.